Hey friends, welcome back. This is episode 106, and we're going to talk about the imposter syndrome. I guess because I've been in the self-development, mental health field for so long, I make assumptions about things because I have been aware of this, but apparently this is becoming more familiarized with people. Like, oh, I didn't know this is what it was. Now I have a label for it, right? And here's my stance as a coach always. I hardly ever get behind the idea, like with labels, that there's like something wrong with you, you're broken, or this is unfixable. Like, I think those are all bullshit labels that are just, it gets people out of having to do their job. Take a hard line on that one. Because what I found with the longer I'm in this field and the longer I work with you, it's like, these are just like identity things that we've picked up. Mm-hmm. We weren't born this way. We just had a subjective interpretation of reality in which we picked up this as a coping mechanism.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Because in childhood, I'm going to start kind of lay the groundwork a little bit. I always feel like it's important to understand, or for my brain, it is. Like, it is a minefield of emotional hardness to be a child. Okay. Because we are so vulnerable.
Yes.
Right. We don't have a fully developed brain. We can't create shelter for ourselves. We can't feed ourselves. We can't clothe ourselves. Right. So that whole childhood, let's just say 0 to 10, you're so vulnerable to everything and everyone. You're so dependent on your caretakers to love you, to keep you safe. That means that they want to keep you in the home, because if they kick you out, it means death. Right? Like, as little kids, you can't survive alone in the wild. You're going to die. Right. And it's beautiful how our brain knows that. Our primal brain knows that. And that's what they're mainly functioning out of when we're kids. 0 to 7 is that primal brain. It's all about survival, right? Our brain wants to get us to a point, survival, to get us to a point where we're at an age that we can take care of ourselves and reproduce. That's his goal. Hard stop, right? So the primal brain is motivated by the motivational triad. Seek pleasure, right? Because pleasure meant that, like, I could go out of the cave and go get some food that felt pleasurable, that would make me want to get out of the cave again to go get more food, right? So seek pleasure, avoid emotional and physical pain and suffering, and utilize as little energy as possible. This is also, like, people use different terms to describe the primal brain, like ego, the subconscious, the lizard brain, the what else? There's so many other terms. It's all the same thing. Right. And as kids, because we don't have really full access to that prefrontal cortex, I'm in a class right now, and I love how he described it. Since our primal brain is constantly working, it's looking for threats. It has a 70% negativity bias. That's how we survive, right? Is it looks for threats all the time.
Yes. Constantly
searching for things, looking for the negative, right? Like, this is out of place. This feels not right, right? So we're constantly looking, and here's where, like, I love this understanding of it. And I will get to imposter syndrome, but I think this is important to know. Because we are so vulnerable, to emotionally stay stable, right? And have this sense of safety, which helps us move forward, we have to look at our caretakers and believe in them. We have to believe that they're perfect and good, because they are in charge of my survival, right? I need to have that belief in them, regardless of what kind of humans they are.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Because, like, imagine if you're a scuba diver, okay? And you're going to go down deep, and you're like, my air tank, like, I don't really believe in it. Like, it's imperfect, it has flaws. Like, can you imagine, like, as you dive 20, 30 feet and you're like, this thing could fail at any time?
Mhm.
How terrified you would be?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing for our caretakers. As children, if we were to understand that they're humans and they're not perfect, I got some shit,
Yeah.
right? It would be terrifying to be a child. I can't survive, and you people can't help me survive. Like, we couldn't emotionally develop. It
Mhm.
would be just terrifying. So we have to, our brain is wired to like, okay, they're right. They've got the answers. So when we bump up against their stuff, what does our brain do? It has to make it about us.
Mhm.
I'm not good enough. You're not loving me well because of me. Something's wrong with me because you're perfect. Okay.
Yes.
And
Okay.
to emotionally survive that, because we're pack animals, okay, I can't believe that only I am messed up. That's isolating and it's very damaging to my psyche. So then my brain, my primal brain, call it the judge right now, okay, then makes a decision. Okay, if I'm messed up, I'm going to go look for evidence to see how the other humans are too.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because you think, yeah, it's that trust, right? And that understanding that your caretaker is keeping you alive. Yeah, as a child. And we may not be able to articulate that as a kid, but our body's programmed, right, to have that trust and that relationship with that caregiver, regardless of how the quality, I don't know, the lack of a better word, of that caretaker.
And it also helps
Okay.
chemically, right? Because it releases oxytocin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm gonna, like, that's why you see children in the system that have been abused and neglected, and they're so bonded to that caretaker, no matter how shitty they are. It's like our primal brain knows, like, you are my survival, regardless of how terrible you are. And so it's going to like release oxytocin. We're going to bond to it, right?
Exactly.
It's my ticket to survival. The primal brain has this mission. I've got to get to 13, because 13 is where I can reproduce,
Right.
like ish, like use genders liberally, right? So when my brain, going back to it, like, it looks at other people, oh, okay, my peers, these other people, I'm going to judge them. See, they're broken. I'm not the only one. I'm broken. That's why mom can't love me well. They're broken too, so I'm not alone.
Yeah.
It gets in this pattern of judge me, judge others.
Okay.
And that helps feed that negativity bias for our survival.
Okay.
But what happens is we stay stuck in that. Mm-hmm. And because it's painful, like judging ourselves, I'm broken, right? I need to fix something. It pulls in these little helpers that I call childhood coping mechanisms.
Right.
Some of them are like perfectionism. If I do this perfectly, maybe mom will love me more. People pleasing. If I just make everybody happy, mom will be happier and she'll be happier with me. Right? Invisibility. If I just like play small, hide, everybody will be happy. Anger, drivenness to prove our worthiness, right? Mm-hmm. Controlling, there's a list of them, right? That we have to pull in to help us like continue to move forward and develop. Well, what happens is we stay stuck in those. That becomes our identity. Yeah. Right? And childhood coping mechanisms don't work in adulthood. So when you see people that kind of start reaching the 30-year, like 30s, late 20s, the train starts going off the track. Yeah. Right? Because we're no longer satisfied. We're very like dissatisfied in our life. This doesn't feel good. People pleasing is feeling more and more awful. Right? And it's because we're still trying to use childhood coping mechanisms to function as an adult.
Right.
Okay.
You've got this like fork, right, where you're no longer in the care of an adult or no longer in the care of your support person, and now you're independent on your own, and it's a whole nother world, right? Yeah. But you're carrying those same mechanisms to try, and using that same lens, and it doesn't work well.
And keep in mind, your prefrontal cortex is now developed.
Yes.
Prefrontal cortex is all about planning, dreaming, goals, problem solving, excuse me. So now they're in this war, right? Like that primal brain and my childhood coping mechanisms, what I should have lived off of. My prefrontal cortex is available now, and it's wanting to dream and have goals and like pursue my destiny.
Yeah.
But this war between them is going on. And that's where I'm finally getting to this imposter syndrome. Okay. The primal brain's voice is always going to be the loudest. Why?
You're trying to keep you alive.
Survival.
Yeah. Survival.
Yes. Our primal brain does not give a shit about our goals, our dreams, our happiness.
Yeah.
This organism has to survive. That's all it cares about. So that voice is always going to be louder. So that's what this imposter syndrome is, and why it feels so real, right? It comes from our primal brain that wants to protect us, right? So we become an adult. We have all this skill set. We've taken all these classes. We've done all these trainings. We've become an expert in this. So then we go on this path to start putting ourselves out there, right? And maybe take a leadership role, something new we've never done before. Of course, your primal brain always exists. Here it comes. Who are you to do that? You don't know enough yet. Who are you to help these people? Who are you to lead these people, right? All very believable thoughts. They feel real. But all it is a primal brain saying, hey, if we step up and we play big, if we step up and take leadership, if we step up and say we're an expert, we step up and try to help people, if we step up and try to be this like person we think we can be, you are risking failure. And that's going to be painful. You're risking rejection. They're going to kick you out of the tribe. You are risking being humiliated and embarrassed and disappointed. And those things feel horrible. We're not going to do that. So we're going to shrink back and go back into our little cave where it's safe and comfortable and nice. We're confident because we have a lot of reps back here, right? Yeah. That's what it is.
I see. That makes so much sense, because I think we've even talked about sort of like the that negative talk that has that tendency to keep us from doing things, but it makes so much sense that that's part of our primal brain's voice, right? Just trying to keep you alive. Yes. But when you put that in perspective as an adult, it's like, hey, you know what, even though taking that leadership role or like speaking in front of this class full of people, I'm not going to die in this situation. Like, it's going to be okay. It may not be as smooth as you want it to be. There may be a little bit, maybe rocky at the beginning until you get started and get to your flow. But I see, that listening to that primal brain, it feels so real. Yeah. It feels so real. And so, yeah.
Right? Because if it didn't feel real, then I would just be like, well, it's fine that tiger's like 20 feet from here. It's fine. I'm going to go ahead and go out there. It's got to feel real to motivate action.
True. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. I never slowed down to recognize that connection. I love how you describe that, and it makes so much more sense, because I think I had one of my colleagues from social work school. She's been a social worker for, she was a social worker before I graduated, which this is going to date me, but 19 years ago. from social work school, and she was talking about imposter syndrome and it feeling so real. She's been a social worker for more than 20 years. Yeah. And still experiencing that. Yeah. But that primal voice doesn't disappear when we get older. Yeah. We can choose to listen to it, but it's always going to be with us. Yeah. Until we no longer walk this earth.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
until it's finally failed its job and we no longer survive,
exactly.
which is inevitable for all of us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's so, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I never thought of it like that, but it makes so much more sense. And I think you can put that in perspective, right? Yeah. Because those thoughts and those feelings feel so real, right? Like that, I know that keeps a lot of people from following their dreams or planning, a dream that they want to accomplish. I know that it's affected me in my practice, and still affects me some days, but I'm getting better. But understanding where that comes from, it's much easier to be like, you know what? Thanks, like appreciate that gift, right? Like appreciate, thanks primal brain for trying to keep me alive. I appreciate that, but I don't need you in this scenario. I'm going to be okay. Yeah. To make this leap. And if I make this leap, to explore new things or, work towards what I want to achieve in my life, in my practice, it may still be scary, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like I'm gonna lose my life over it.
Yes. And I think that's where, like, in my practice, I don't shame parts of our brain. I don't pit us against them or make them enemies. I think that it's like every part of my brain is for me and loves me. I have the responsibility of managing it. I'm not my brain. I'm not my body. I'm not my thoughts. I'm the divine being, right? That experiences this. So it's my responsibility to manage it. And so in my practice, I try to tell people, like, or teach them, we have to love and support every area of our brain. And we have to understand that my primal brain, when it's telling me, giving me this imposter syndrome of you don't belong, who am I to do this? It creates this anxiety, this overwhelm that gives me like, you're not enough, and causes me to retreat, withdraw, cancel things, play small, procrastinate.
Yeah.
When I can understand that my primal brain is it doesn't understand the difference. It doesn't have the capability of discerning what is actual imminent death and what is feeling uncomfortable. It just says, we could die.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can die. Like, you step up and decide, like, I'm an expert in this, or you take a leadership role instead of playing a support role. Like, all your primal brain understands is this could mean death for me. So as the person that manages this brain, I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of support that primal brain. This doesn't mean death. I may be embarrassed. I may not get it right the first time, but I promise you, I'm not going to die. I'm just going to experience an emotion, which is fine. We can do that. And then we're going to move on. So then it allows that voice to reduce down.
Right. Yeah. Then it doesn't feel like this huge mountain you have to get over to do whatever it is you want to do. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. Well, here I'm thinking, I wish I would have known this in college before I started. My path to medical school would have been a little bit different if I would have understood that. But to be honest, I probably still wouldn't have changed my experience. To get me here and help me learn things. But if people could learn this now, wherever they are in their journey, I just feel like you gave this huge, like, gold nuggets, like the golden key to unlock everything. Because I mean, even with imposter syndrome, I think it doesn't just apply to professionals, right? Yeah, people who work with folks, but even if you're trying to start a business or, like just wanting to take that leap and ask that question, to somebody, or, about something. It's like, oh, I can understand all that fear, that unworthiness, that negative talk, often is just that not defense, protective mechanism from our primal brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like to think of it like everyone suffers from imposter syndrome, only if they're trying to do something new.
Yeah.
Right? When we're doing the same thing, right, and living in our cave of comfortability and comfort zone, we don't have to deal with it.
Right.
But it's when we're wanting to go do something new, right? Want to try something new, go do something, create a new role, create a new business, create anything new.
Right.
That's when that thing is going to rise up, right? Because it's risky. And here's why, and I'll end it on this. I'm trying to decide whether to go to the board or not. Okay, we're going to go to the board. Cat's in the chair, so I guess I'll squat. Okay, because we are conditioned to believe when we go to do new things, you just need to gather confidence.
Okay.
Right? Like that's what combats this imposter syndrome. You just got to be more confident, right? Confidence is based in history. It's historical based reps. Okay. So we have lots of confidence that I can walk. Okay. Because I have confidence in that, my brain can go and look for history to prove that I have been successful in walking. So it gives me the green light to go and do it again. And it doesn't trigger my primal brain because there is no threat against my survival. It has data to prove I am successful and I survived. So the primal brain is not triggered. We can't use that when we want to go do new things. There's no historical data to pull from. So then of course the brain's like, we don't know if we can survive.
Yeah.
So then the primal brain's triggered. In comes imposter syndrome. Like, who are you to do this? We've not really done this before. We don't have a lot of evidence that you can survive this, right? And so it's going to go through its list of like, who are you to do this, etc. Right? It's very effective. It makes us play small and go back into our hiding, right?
It's safe.
Yeah. So to combat it, we have to pull from self-confidence. And self-confidence is made of the four things, right? 1, we trust ourselves. 2, we believe in ourselves. 3, we have our own back. It's not going to be spelled right because I'm in a hurry. And 4, we're willing to feel all the emotions. That's how we go do it. That's how we overcome imposter syndrome. Because we tell our brain, like, I'm not gonna die. I trust me. I trust me to take care of me. I trust me to create safety for me. I trust me to figure things out. Okay. 2, I believe in me. I believe in that I can figure things out. I believe that I have done the work. I believe that I only have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the people I'm trying to serve. I don't have to be perfect, but I come from a genuine place where I want to serve and help, and I only have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of them. That's it. I believe in me. And the 3rd is I have my own back. No matter how this turns out, no matter what, I am not going to trash talk myself, throw myself under the bus, shame myself, judge myself. I'm going to celebrate me and validate me and have my own back. I'm going to take care of me. Okay. And then the 4th is I am willing to feel any and all the emotions. I'm willing to step up in this leadership role. I'm willing to start this business. I'm willing to do this new thing and feel all the emotions that's going to come with it and still do the thing. I'm going to do this with fear. I'm going to do this with a little bit of self-doubt. I'm going to do this with a little bit of overwhelm or anxiety, but I'm still going to do it because I'm willing to bet on me and I'm willing to feel the emotions.
Mhm. I think those, I know that we've, talked about these 4 pillars of self-confidence, and even just hearing them again today is so important in understanding, because you think, like, if you break down these 4 pillars, it's not, it's one of those things, it's what do they say? It's simple, but it may not always be easy for folks. But the more that you work on this and you think about it and you like understand this, it becomes really easy. So you can, bridge those 2 together and start that new thing, because you're engaging, different parts of your brain to say, okay, you know what? I can do this, like, and start to find evidence of things that you have done. Maybe not the exact same new venture you want to start or do or jump into, but when you slow down and look at these 4 pillars of self-confidence, you're like, oh, I trust that I've got that dream. I believe that I can do it, or at least get started. Regardless of whether you've had historical data or not, to help to, I don't know, appease that primal brain a little bit, but and to appreciate it for what it is, but to see over that or through that, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like, I like how you said it. You can look for evidence other places, right? Like, we don't want to recreate the wheel.
Right.
So like one of my coaches, she taught me that concept. Like, you have to pull from something else. So I've never created $1 million.
Yeah.
And I have a goal of creating 10 million before I'm 50. Okay. I've never done that. I have no evidence to prove that I can do it. So my brain wants to be like, you're not capable. You don't have what it takes, even though it's very unclear what it does take to do that. But it just like, it wants to go to that, right? And so I have to look at something like CrossFit, where I feel very confident in, right? And I've been working on my muscle ups for 18 months now. Like, it's evidence. I haven't got my muscle ups yet, but I won't quit.
Right.
Like, I just keep showing up, getting reps in, trying to figure it out, tweaking this, tweaking that. And I absolutely have no doubt I will get them.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to take that same skill set and just apply it to making $1 million.
Right.
I don't know how long it'll take. I just have to keep showing up, tweaking things, changing things. It's the same skill set.
Yeah. I think that's perfect.
Awesome. All right. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. It's just this like imposter syndrome. It's not something it's not an ailment that we suffer from, right? It's just simply a mind that's not managed, that's allowing the primal brain to see everything as threats, and we're believing everything it has to offer. That's it. And we can learn to start managing the mind and really helping it and directing it. This doesn't become a thing, right? Like, you're going to feel it, but it's no longer a thing that makes you shrink back, play small, go back to what's comfortable, right? Don't speak your truth. Don't show up in a bold way. Like, it gets easier because you get to start seeing like, oh, this is what, hey, primal brain, I see you. This is not death. I may not do it perfectly. I may get it wrong, but that does not mean we're going to die. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
No, thank you. That was great.
Awesome. All right, guys. If you want to take this work deeper, we have the New Beginnings program. Hit us up. I do free or complimentary consultation calls to see if this program would work for you, to help you show up in a bigger, bolder way so you can go after your dreams. Because I totally believe our dreams are our destiny. And when we deny our dreams, we're denying our destiny and purpose. So I hope to see you guys in complimentary calls. If not, we'll see you in the next podcast.
Sounds good.